How you doing, guys? Big Mac Downscore here again today, back once again with another episode of my Conquest series for you. Today we're going to take a look at issue 32. Okay, what are we getting free in issue 32? Well, it is Primus Apothecary, a £22.50 miniature. The magazine, as always, is £7.99 Great British Pounds. I think you'll find that that is a £14.51 saving. Absolutely mind-blowing saving, that. You're not going to find these cheaper anywhere else. I doubt it anyway. Even trawling through eBay, looking for poorly assembled or poorly painted ones, I think you'd struggle to find one at a comparable price. However, what else is in the magazine? Well, let's walk you through it page by page. I'm going to try the green screen again. It seemed to work last time. A lot of people seem to like it, so I'll continue. I'm probably going to be move myself to a lower corner or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, or just step out of the way for certain things, probably, actually, thinking about it. But let's go on and continue. So, issue 32. We've got Space Marine Apothecaries, Primus Apothecary Wargate, and Primus Apothecary Rules. Flicking to page 1, what have we got in there? We see a picture of an Imperial Fist Apothecary. He is delivering the Emperor's peace. I think that's what they call it. Delivering the Emperor's peace to a brother of the Imperial Fist. You can see he's missing an arm there. And there's lots of gory detail to see there. He's taken some of the progenoid glands. There's 2 progenoid glands in each Space Marine, and they're the glands that produce the gene seed or replicate the gene seed, so they extract them from fallen battle brothers and then implant them into new recruits. So that's what they extract, and he's taken one from the neck, and then he'll, after that, use his sword that's on his backpack there and take one from the chest area of the Space Marine. And so, as I said, he's taken the progenoid gland or progenoid organ from the neck area of the Imperial Fist there. If you look down at this bottom picture here, though, I might be smaller, so I might not be pointing at the right area here. But if you look down at the bottom left-hand side of the picture, there's a servitor there, and it's a medical servitor, and this gives you a sort of a brief look at the grim darkness of the far future, where this servitor is basically, a servitor is like a lobotomized human that is then used as a robot slave, basically, that kind of thing. The word robot just comes from the Czech word, I think, meaning slave, the word robot. So, saying robot slave is a bit redundant. However, a servitor is like a mindless, half robot, half human. And he's got like needles where his fingers used to be and stuff like that, and he's used as a service machine, basically. So that gives you an insight into the grim darkness of the far future there, I'd say. Flicking over to the next page, we've got the Prime Helix. The Prime Helix is a symbol of the Apothecarian. It is worn by apothecaries as a badge of office. This symbol often incorporates the wings of the Imperium or chapter-specific symbols, as you can see with the one on the left-hand side there. And this is just a symbol of the Apothecarian, like it says in the text there. Moving on around the page, you can see the reductor on the bottom part of the page here. And this is one of the instruments that the apothecary uses to extract the gene seed, the progenoid organs or glands from the fallen battle brothers. And then there's another fantastic image here showing the implantation process of new recruits it's like the first part of the process of them becoming Space Marines, becoming fully functional Space Marines, and the chest cavity's all open, and he's going to insert one of the organs, one of the gene seed organs into there. So on to the next page, we've got Primus Apothecary Wargate. This gives us a nice simple view, picking out all the apothecary specific war gear in red for us. So we've got the surgical servo arms first of all on the backpack there, and then we've got a medical light as well, so he can see what he's doing. Everyone needs to see what they're doing, don't they? Even a superhuman Space Marine with excellent vision, with superhuman vision, needs an extra bit of light now and again so he can see on the battlefield. On the chest, hanging on a necklace, is the canopic jars where the extractive progenoid organs are stored. And the Absolver bolt pistol, that's a big heavy bolt pistol, similar to what the Reavers use. And then there's the Narthecium with it, which is another tool of the Apothecary's trade. Flicking over to the next page, we've got the images on the actual miniature here. Just touching on the Narthecium a little more. This is an Apothecary's set of medical equipment and information devices. These devices contain medicine, cauterize and stitch wounds, and perform more complex surgeries. So that just gives you a little bit more information about the Narthecium there. And it just picks out the same things we've had on the previous page, but also introduces us to the Reductor pistol, which is a pistol, again, specific to apothecaries. So it's not like a heavy bolt pistol, which is a 15-inch weapon. This is much more close quarters. It's actually a tool, a medical tool, basically. But you can use it as a weapon in game. It has a higher armour penetration value because it's designed to break through the chest plate of Space Marine's armour and then extract organs from the Space Marine, from the fallen Space Marine. So it's got an extra AP value. I think it's something like AP -4 or something like that. Whereas the Absolver bolt pistol is only AP -1, which is handy anyway. But -4 is better than -1. It's either -3 or -4. I'll get to that bit when I get to the rules for the Apothecary, won't I? So then, leaving that behind, onto the next page. In the Depths of the Hive, this is a fantastic short story. I really enjoyed this one. And again, similar to the way on the first page, the image of the Servitor gives you an idea of what the grim darkness of the far future is like. This story gives you a really good idea of the way Games Workshop and Black Library, the Games Workshop writers, really like to play on the grim darkness. There's some very gory descriptions in this short story, so it's definitely one to read when you get your hands on this magazine. Even if you're not normally that into the lore, it just gives you a little brief taste of what the lore and the stories of the 41st millennium are like. It's just to give you a rough idea, it's about an infested hive, a hive that's been infested with a gene stealer cult. Gene stealer cults are basically a cult of human alien hybrids that worship the aliens that they are hybridized with. So the aliens they're hybridized with are gene stealers, and the gene stealers come from the Tyranid race. They're sent out as like scouting forces across the galaxy to infest worlds and set up these gene stealer cults. And then, so this hive city has been infested by a gene stealer cult, and the Death Watch have been sent in to eradicate the gene stealer infestation. Gene stealer cult infestation. And why have the Death Watch been sent? Well, the Death Watch have been sent because the Death Watch, as it says in this text box here, are alien fighting specialists, basically. They specialise in fighting Xenos of all types, and they're also they're not just an ordinary chapter. The Battle Brothers of the Death Watch are drawn from all different chapters, so you've got Space Wolves in there, you've got Dark Angels in there, you've got Imperial Fist in there, Ultramarines, Iron Hands, so on and so forth. You've got Space Marines drawn from most Space Marine chapters in the Death Watch, and that's because they basically take their pick of the Space Marines that show they are best at fighting aliens. Moving on to the next page, we've got the How to Build section now. The How to Build section is pretty straightforward as always. There are a few optional assembly points in here, things like the helmet, the Absolver bolt pistol or the Reductor pistol. It's picked out in green on this second page here. There's also a drill on the backpack of the Apothecary that's picked out in green. You don't have to put that piece on if you don't want. So it just gives you a few different options there. So if you've got two Apothecaries, you can build them in slightly different ways. The way I'll probably build mine, I think, is with the Reductor pistol, and the Absolver bolt pistol I can then use on a Reaver or something like that, or if I wanted to make a second Apothecary, perhaps I could use the Absolver bolt pistol, some of the tools from the backpack, and a bit of green stuff to make him a tunic sort of thing to cover some of his armour, and then make myself a second Apothecary using some of the intercessors that I've got from the first few issues. So after that, we go on to the how to paint Apothecary. This, for one miniature, seems very extensive at first glance. It's 8 pages long, this how to paint section, so it's like, surely we don't need to know how to paint over 8 pages for this Apothecary. However, one thing I would say is we've not painted white before, so it actually gives us a really thorough guide on painting white, painting the robes red and everything. Flicking through the pages, we go on next to lead belcher and then painting McCrag. It's your typical base paint and then wash scenario, really. When you realise the setup of the pages. After the blue, it's Abaddon black, and then it's Retributor armour. We're picking out more metallics. How to paint details, we're picking out more red areas, and the flesh of the Bugman's glow. Rakar's flesh on the skulls and the back of the cloth and stuff. Mechanicus standard grey on the base, on the stony areas on the base. Some more Retributor armour and lead belcher on the details on the base. And then the base coats are complete. It gives you a nice view of the miniatures, as it typically does in the magazines now. And then how to paint shades. So it tells you where to put your Agro shade, where to put your normal oil, your Rakeland flash shade, and then finally your texture paint, your Astro Granite on the base. Flicking over to the final page, it then talks about fixing mistakes. So go back into areas where you may have gotten a paint over an area that you previously painted another colour, and then you can pick those areas out and neaten up certain areas where there's 2 colours that meet, and then you can neaten them up. That's what it talks about there. And then on to, this is going to be a short episode, I think, because that paint section, although I can talk about it quite quickly, the paint section is 8 pages long, so I got through them pages really quickly. So, Honoured I've Fallen. This week's mission is all about how to use an Apothecary in game, unsurprisingly. I'll read you a bit, shall we? I didn't do a reading last week, did I? So I'll read you a bit now. Reference called on to Lieutenant Calcius, Ultramarines.
We must recover the gene seed of the fallen. The chapter's lifeblood cannot be allowed to fall into the hands of the heretics, for they shall surely despoil it with their foul touch.
End transmission. So, that gives you a brief idea of what the battle's going to be about. Flicking over to the actual rules of the battle. So, on the top right there's Zone B, and the bottom left, as I look at it. So, yeah, as you look at it as well. Let's try and work out if I look at it the same way you do, and I will. So, the top right we've got Zone B, bottom left we've got Zone A. We've got 2 deployment zones, and you'll see at the top of the page it says you need 5 objective markers in this. Now, we've only got 2 objective markers that they've given us, but it says you can just use coins or something like that to represent other objective markers, coins or tokens of a similar size. You could use milk bottle lids. You can use bases, extra, if you've got any spare bases that you normally stick your miniatures on. If you're just getting into wargaming, you probably won't have any spare bases. But if you've been in wargaming for a while, better make sure I don't lose that base. If you've been in wargaming for a while, you've probably got a load of 25mm bases that you don't want to use anymore because they're encouraging you to put your miniatures on 32mm bases now. So you can use them as objective markers instead. Or there's also some objective markers coming further down the line in this magazine, in this collection. So, but you can't use them at the minute, obviously, because you don't have them. So just for the time being, use coins or something like that. And the aim of the game is for the Apothecary on the Space Marine side and the Biologist Putrefier on the Death Guard side to try and collect as many of those objective markers as possible. The Death Guard want to get their hands on the gene seed of the fallen Ultramarines in order to corrupt it and use it to create future generations of Death Guard, where the Ultramarines want to make sure that that doesn't happen, basically, that their gene seed isn't tainted, it's used in future generations of Ultramarines. So with 5 objective markers, each one the Apothecary or the Biologist Putrefier gets to is worth 3 victory points. However, if you can't get your Apothecary or Biologist Putrefier to a certain objective marker, if you don't think you're going to get to it, still send a squad there, because you can get 2 victory points at the end of the battle if you control that objective marker, for each objective marker you control. The Biologist Putrefier and the Apothecary basically collect them as they go round, but any that are left on the field of play at the end of the battle will be controlled So that's where you get the 2-point value. The armies involved are 5 Plague Marines, 12 Poxwalkers, Foul Blightspawn, and the Biologist Putrefier for the Death Guard. Space Marines, we've got 5 Intercessors, Lieutenant Calcius, 5 Reavers, and the Primus Apothecary. So pretty even sides, really, although the Poxwalkers have got an advantage, well, the Death Guard, sorry, have got an advantage of numbers because they've got the 12 Poxwalkers. However, you can whittle them down nice and quickly if you concentrate your fire as a Space Marine player. So, what's next? So on the next page, we've got the Primus Apothecary rules. Without going into too much detail, he's just your standard Space Marine guy, really. Apart from the fact that he's got 5 wounds, which is fantastic. He's got a 3-up save, which all Space Marines, or pretty much all Space Marines have. Weapon skill, ballistic skill is the same as most Space Marines, and movement of 6 inches. He's got an Absolver Bolt pistol, which is a 16-inch weapon. Sorry, I said 15 inches earlier, didn't I? And it's a Strength 5 AP -1 weapon. The Reductor pistol is a 3-inch weapon, so it's very short range, but it's good for using in combat against someone in tough armour because, as I said earlier, it's got a high AP value. Not only has it got a high AP value of -3, not -4, but it also does 2 damage, so it can take out higher wound models more quickly than the Absolver Bolt pistol could. The rules for the Narthesium, basically you can heal a model that's lost wounds, and that model can then regain a certain amount of wounds, or on a D6 you can also return a model to a unit that doesn't have their starting number of models, but they only come back with 1 wound. So it's an either-or situation. On a D6 roll of a 4+, you can return a model to the field of battle. But you have to have, if it's a single model unit, you can't do that. You have to do it with a unit like a multi-model unit, basically. And then the next page is your back of your data sheets that we always get. And then we're on to the back page. Whoa! What do we get for the back page? I'm going to step right out of the way here now and just talk to you. So, next week we are getting the Thermic Plasma Conduits, and we are getting like half a set of Thermic Plasma Conduits basically. And then the following week after that, issue 34, we are getting some Death Guard villains. Now, villains. Are they villains really, or are they heroes? They're heroes to the Death Guard, that's for sure. But they're keeping it simple for the new players. They're saying they're villains on the basis that they are against most right-thinking humans. But who's evil, who's not, it's all shades of grey really in the 41st millennium. And then after that, issue 35, I can't remember what's coming. I've got a feeling it might be another Space Marine character. I'm thinking it's the Space Marine Primaris Chaplain, although I could be wrong and it could be another terrain piece. So stay tuned for next week's issue to find out. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the battlefield.